Well, welcome back, and just wanted to take a little time together today with Paulina and Jerry to kind of comment on some of the things that Phyllis Schlafly just said. And I've been made aware that I guess we had a power outage when I made the big God bless you announcement about Franklin Graham.
Yeah, all the lead up and
all of a sudden there was a power glitch throughout Southern Oregon, and we got impacted by it. So I'll give you that coming up in just a moment. But one thing about Phyllis Schlafly, it was interesting, you know, she's been around for a long time. And I had the opportunity years ago when I was chairman to sit on the Platform Plank Committee when it dealt with the pro-life issue at the Republican National Convention. And Phyllis was to my right, and the late Henry Hyde was to my left, Congressman Hyde, which ended up creating the Hyde Amendment, which was one of the most pro-life planks, or at least laws that were out there. And so I know her passion on this issue. But yesterday, first of all, earlier in the day, there was an article on Drudge that said the only guy that could save America would be Donald Trump. So he takes that and runs out and says, look, I got Phyllis Schlafly endorsement. Well, she just said that that wasn't an endorsement.
So what was it she said?
Yeah.
A comment that his popularity, and he's representing the anger and the frustration and of the American voters, and that he probably would do a good job as president for a while, but she wasn't totally endorsing him.
Okay.
So
for a while, that's interesting.
For a while, yeah. So it's an interesting time. I will say Donald's numbers continue to go up. I don't agree with the way he is using certain words and language.
Yeah.
I think that you can't go down that road and tell. Let me just say this: the fruit of your Christian declaration isn't seen in using language like that, even against an opponent. I think at the end of the day, we need to understand one thing. We may disagree with people all day long about their ideology and philosophy of life, but they're a fellow human being, and you don't have to degrade them down like that. I don't care how much you disagree with them. So I don't like him using those words. I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, or
no, I think,
who cares?
well, there is something to this. If you're going to run for president, you better act presidential. And that's not presidential.
Which is not, yesterday, Franklin Graham, and I want to say for those who didn't hear this because we had this little power glitch, when I heard and read this, I just kind of stopped. It caught me off guard, and I was ashamed of myself that I didn't process this more thoroughly. But last week, as you know, the House of Representatives, under the leadership of Paul Ryan, the new Speaker, and a bunch of Republicans and Democrats, so they had all the Democrats and quite a few Republicans voting for the spending bill.
Right.
And that bill then quickly went over to the Senate, was passed in the Senate, and went off to the President, under the guise that, well, we're not shutting the government down. But in that bill was full funding of Planned Parenthood. In light of all of these videos that we have been seeing, and Paulina, you've expressed very heartfelt frustration that after these videos that we couldn't get so-called pro-life legislators to stand up and stop it.
Right.
And Mitch McConnell in the House or in the Senate, and the list goes on and on. So-called pro-life Republicans could not put their foot down and say enough is enough and stop it. So tucked into the spending bill was full funding of Planned Parenthood. Franklin Graham said, that's enough. And he openly said, I'm leaving the Republican Party.
Wow. Wow.
And it kind of caught me off guard, and I'm thinking, first of all, God bless Franklin Graham. Now we have a Christian leader in this country that is putting principle before politics. And he is putting his convictions before everything else. He understands that the most critical issue in the United States, and there's a lot of them, but if we don't get the life issue right, everything else falls apart. And he said, enough is enough, I'm leaving the Republican Party, and he left. And my head starts swirling around. First of all, I thought, God bless Franklin Graham. Now the question is, will that send a message to other religious leaders? I don't know. But I do think this, that all pro-life organizations who are primarily run by Republicans, if they don't send a message to the Republican Party and the sitting Republican legislators that they totally oppose what they have done, and they are going to work to have somebody else take their place in the legislature. That's the only message. And I would say to state parties and county parties, you need to rise up and pass a resolution that opposes what the House of Representatives and the Senate did, and oppose those Republicans that voted for it. You say, Perry, you're splitting the party. Look, I'm former chairman. And I have to tell you, I have a heart for the party. I understand how the system works. I served there for 4 years. I was the first chairman to be reelected by acclamation. And so I understand this thing. But if we don't put principle before politics, then we are worthless. Absolutely worthless. And every time you go to these conventions and these platform committee conventions, there's always an effort to take the pro-life plank out of the Republican platform. Every time. And it's the conservatives and the grassroots people that keep it in there. And here comes along Franklin Graham that says, you can't even stand on the very thing that holds you together. I'm out of here. And I want to say to Franklin Graham, God bless you and your leadership. And this comes in a shadow when I'm being asked to get more involved and to reinstitute myself into the process. And I'm going, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If we can't get this one right, then who are we? So I don't know. I better stop.
Well, let me ask you this. As a leader inside the Christian community, with Franklin Graham exiting the Republican Party, will there be a wave that follows?
There should be.
Yeah.
There should be. The Republican Party is in shambles. This is the result of the so-called establishment Republicans trying to eclipse the conservative part of the party. Look, you can call it Tea Party, and I'm going to have a Tea Party leader on here in just a moment. You can do all of these divisions within the Republican Party, wherever you want to go with that. Up to you. But if you don't get this one right, get out. And I want to say to all the pro-life movement across the country, Jackson County, Southern Oregon, everywhere else the Dove has seen and heard, you need to rise up and pass a resolution, whether it's a pro-life committee or a central committee or a state committee. You need to pass a resolution immediately voicing your contempt for what these leaderships have done to you and it has done to your party. If you don't get this one right, get out.
Well, what would you hope? I mean, we're in an election cycle, and of course everybody's looking up to those people that we have to choose from. And that's all we have. Those are our choices. What would you hope to see from them, the reaction to this whole
Well, nobody's
budget?
reacted. This is what caught me off guard. Franklin Graham was the only one that looked into the guts of this bill and said, hey, wait a minute, you guys just pulled the fast one over everybody, and you funded Planned Parenthood in the shadow of all of these videos, and more to come. I think there's 2 more to be released, or 1 more to be released. Not one candidate has spoke out against, well, they spoke out about the spending of the bill, but nobody's outraged that we're going to go on and dismember and kill babies. And I'm going, oh my stars, what are we doing to ourselves? And I don't know. I'm sorry for getting so emotional about it.
I think Franklin did what a lot of us feel like, but don't have the courage to, or don't have the position, or for whatever reason. But what do you think is, at this point, and you and I had that conversation yesterday, we have our choices, and we have to choose a leader. Are we just going to go for the best of the worst, or, like, is there any hope? Now that Franklin is gone, now someone else is going to leave the party.
Well, look, he's not gone. What he's done, he went independent. Now, what does that mean? Well, basically what that means is that he can't vote in a primary unless there's an open primary state. And most states don't have. Some states do, some states don't. I fought against it as chairman in the state of Oregon not to have an open primary for various reasons, and I still stand on that. So you got to think twice. If you're going to leave the party, you won't be able to vote in the primary, but you will be able to vote in the general election. Therefore, you could forfeit voting for the very person that you would like to see in because you didn't vote for them in the primary. That's the stickler of this whole thing. You know. But I think Christians now have reached to a point where we just flat are confused and don't know what to do. We've had all of our issues shoved down our throat. We've been thrown under the bus by people that supposedly represent us and what we supposedly believe in. And when you have Republicans taking one of the main planks of the Republican Party and throwing it under the bus, I'm sorry, you didn't shoot yourself in the foot, you shot yourself in a vital organ.
And when the faith community gets confused and doesn't know what to do, they don't turn out in the general election.
That's the problem. Democrats may get confused, but they'll always pull the lever for a D.
Absolutely.
Republican gets ticked off or divided, they stay home and don't vote.
Right.
And if you look at the evangelical turnout in the United States, it is pathetic. And as we are complaining about what the liberals are doing to this country, they're doing exactly what they were elected to do. And they were put in by office by people that wanted them to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
The only thing we can do differently is to rise up, change the voter registration, and vote these clowns out, including Republicans that will not stand for what they're supposed to stand for.
Bingo.
You know, so
This just killed me. Republicans, right? I mean, people that you would trust
That we think we can trust.
to represent your values, people
Yeah.
that you would, it's crazy.
it's crazy. And when you go down the list of people that voted for this bill, and by the way, happened in our own state, voted for the bill. I have no idea what the excuse is. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no excuse. If you want to say, well, we're not shutting the government down, where's the principle? Well, we needed to do this to do that. Baloney. That is the very thing that Donald Trump has capitalized on.
Absolutely.
And is running away with the nomination on
right.
because he's expressing the frustrations in America.
Yep.
And I'm telling Christians, and well, God bless Franklin Graham. I don't know where this leading going. I don't know if he's in his home state, if it's an open primary or not. I don't know that. But I want to say to Franklin Graham, for standing on principle, God bless you, my friend. And it's caused me to stop and think and pause.
And you know, Franklin, he's starting his bus tour next week. He'll be going to every state. He'll be in Oregon, and we'll have kind of a sneak peek preview. And I think he'll be here in June, not here in Medford, but he'll be in Salem. He goes to every capital city.
Yeah.
So God willing, we'll be able to be there with him, because I think those rallies that he's going to hold in every capital city can really help put some things in perspective and put our hearts in the right direction.
Yeah.
Well, I think where we are in America, especially as Christians, it's easy. You know, I go to church, get around in the community, and I hear all the complaints about everybody thinking, well, they're doing this and this is happening, this is bad. Everybody knows what's wrong.
Yeah.
But nobody will put themselves forward to do anything about it.
Right.
And I hate to get into conversations where it's just a griping contest about who can say the worst thing about the other person. We're talking Christians now, downing everybody. Look, we don't know how to balance evil and good, and we really don't know how to balance dealing with fellow human beings that we disagree with in light of the gospel. We got this whole thing messed up, and the world is saying phooey on you guys, while the world at the same time is crashing and burning and wanting hope and encouragement. So somewhere in activism and evangelism, there has to be a balance, and it's a tough one to do. But folks, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to criticize. It's as simple as that. If you don't register and vote, your word means nothing. That's the least you can do.
Yeah.
The very least you can do is register and vote. Well, you can send all your comments about me to Jerry.
Well, send it to
Jerry
me.
Bilden at theDove.us.
I'll take them. Oh, man.
No, I just want to say God bless Franklin Graham. He's thrown the gauntlet down, and I don't know. Polina, you asked the question. What will come of this? I don't know. But I would hope, at least during this next couple of days, sit down and send him an email or a Facebook comment. Thank you, Franklin, for standing for principle over politics.
Yep.
God bless you. We'll be right back.
I'm Steve Johnson, News Director of the Dove TV. Watch more videos from the Dove Newsroom at theDove.us.